Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Now today again we are continuing with the class of biology, and the topic to be discussed is fundamental unit of life. In the previous session of this particular chapter, we have studied about the basic properties of plasma membrane. We came to know that this plasma membrane, it is forming this outer boundary of the cell. You can see this outline. So it is actually enclosing the various organelles, nucleus and the cytoplasm inside the cell. It can serve as a barrier as it will not allow the internal and external environment of the cell to get mixed up. But still it is porous. It is semi-permeable or selectively permeable in nature. That means it can allow the exit and entry of several molecules from inside to outside or vice versa. That means from outside to inside. Now these materials which are going to move in and out of the cells, of course they are in the form of molecules. So how do these molecules move? We have given a brief introduction about that in the previous class. Now let us understand the details of the same thing. So the movement of material across the membrane can take place either by diffusion process or by the osmosis process. So this molecular movement we can categorize as diffusion or the osmosis. What do you mean by the diffusion and the osmosis? Let us brief it out. Diffusion, it can be defined as a movement of solute particles. Now this is an important point here. We are saying it is a movement of solute particle, nothing else. Substance, the material which usually gets dissolved in the solution. So these molecules or the solute, when it moves from a region of high concentration to a region of its low concentration, then the process is known as diffusion. Example, as we have studied in case of the exchange of gases in the living cells during respiration. Whereas osmosis, it is a movement of water molecules. Here we have seen it was solute particles in the diffusion. In osmosis, it is a movement of water molecule from a region of its high concentration to a region of its low concentration. So diffusion and osmosis, they are almost a similar type of process. But where the difference lies here? Diffusion is the movement of solute particles, whereas osmosis, it is a movement of water molecules. Diffusion, it can take place in the absence of membrane too. It do not require a specific membrane in between. As we have seen in the case of, let us say, smoke particles. Smoke can move from one region where it is concentrated to the another region where the concentration is low, and no any medium or the membrane is required for this type of movement. Reversely, in the case of osmosis, the movement of water molecules will need a semi-permeable membrane in between. In between what? In between the two regions of its concentration. One side it is high, the another side it is low. So these molecules will permeate, they will move across this semi-permeable membrane and will go towards the low concentration region. The example is generally observed in the form of absorption of water from the soil by roots in the plants. In animals also we can see similar type of example. Can you imagine? It is like, we can say, absorption of water from the undigested food material in the large intestine. Similarly, we can say during urine formation, there are the steps, and if the water molecule is high in the waste material, it will be reabsorbed by the kidney tubules. So all these are actually moving the water molecules are moving from a region of high concentration towards the region of its low concentration. Let us understand each process individually here now. Before studying the examples, let us explain this diffusion process in general. We are continuously saying that diffusion is a process of movement of particles from a region of its high concentration to the region of its low concentration. You can say, let us say in the case of non-living system, the example another we can say, if there is a beaker, suppose this is a beaker and there is a water in this, it is filled with water, and suppose a crystal of let us say copper sulfate is added in the beaker. Now can you imagine what will happen? The particles of this copper sulfate which is present at the base, the particles will get loosened and it tends to move towards the other side where only water is present. Now this area, it can be considered as a region of high concentration where there is completely this copper sulfate is present. Now how these molecules will move? They start moving from here and they will move towards the upper side and they will concentrate over this region also. Let us say this way the diffusion is taking place. Suppose this is a region where the high molecule number is present, and suppose there is another medium where no such molecules are present. So during the diffusion, where these molecules will tend to move from a region of its high concentration to a region of its low concentration. So this is low, so these molecules will tend to move towards this particular region and the situation tends to become in an equilibrium phase. They will move, they will get dispersed, and this way it will take place until the equilibrium is established. Now this is an example which is taking place in general in our surrounding. Smoke is the another example we have discussed, but we are studying right now biology. So we have to study about the similar type of diffusion in the living system. Diffusion, it can take place for the solid molecules, for gaseous molecules as well as for the liquid molecules. So in the case of living cells, the example shown here is about exchange of gases during respiration in living organisms. Now till now we have studied that during the respiration process, oxygen, it tends to enter inside the cell. We inhale the air and after that we utilize the oxygen. Similarly, during exhalation, when the expired air, it contains more of carbon dioxide, right? Now, can you think about any relation between this process and the process of diffusion? Exactly. The air which we are going to inhale, how much percentage of oxygen is present over there? It is 21%. Whereas carbon dioxide, it is just 0.03%. Now when we compare this concentration with that of the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide inside the cells, then what supposed to come out? The fact comes to be that the oxygen is low inside the cell. So from this air, the oxygen will tend to move into the cell inside, and then it will be utilized, and then after utilization CO2 will be produced, so the concentration of CO2 will increase and will become more as compared to that which is present in the air. So what will happen? The CO2 will tend to move towards outside. So during this process what will happen? Oxygen will enter the cell and CO2 will move out. Let us assume another unicellular organism. We can explain it so more easily. Suppose this is a cell. Fine. In the surrounding there must be present certain, we can say like soil particles, or maybe this cell is present in the aquatic region. So if it is in the soil, the water will form a thin layer across around the cell. Now the dissolved oxygen which is present in the water in the surrounding region is definitely higher than that of the one which is present in the inside the cell. So what will happen? This oxygen will tend to move inside the cell. Now once it comes inside the cell, now what will happen? It will be utilized. It will convert glucose into carbon dioxide. This is what happens during respiration. So the glucose present inside the cell will get oxidized by reacting with this incoming oxygen. As a result, the CO2 which is formed, it will increase the level of CO2 inside the cell, and in the surrounding, the concentration of CO2 is low as compared to that which is present inside the cell. So now the CO2 molecule, it tends to move towards outside. This is how the diffusion of these gases takes place in the cells. Not only this, there are many examples which could be understood with respect to explain the process of diffusion in the living system. For example, during the nutrition or the digestive system, those complex substances are converted into the simpler ones. Now these simpler substances from the intestine, they are absorbed into the blood. So why is it so? Because it was higher inside over there. Besides, there are many other molecules like glucose. Glucose is usually high in the blood as compared to its level inside the cell. So what will happen? The glucose will tend to move from outside, that is blood, outside the cell, that is blood, towards interior of the cell, and then it will get oxidized and will form the CO2. So all these processes are basically interlinked, but diffusion, definitely it provides a great advantage to control the entry and exit of such type of molecules. They are migrating, they are moving as per requirement. Further, diffusion, actually it can occur in the living system in various ways. There may be a simple diffusion process, or there may be another facilitated type of diffusion, or otherwise there is another transport system which is supported by the plasma membrane. That is actually active transport system. So now let us understand these basic types of diffusion here. So the diffusion, it can be classified on the basis of consumption of energy molecules, energy rich molecules. What we mean by this is, diffusion, it may take place without using any energy rich molecules. So it is a kind of, it is going in a downfill manner. That means the region where it is high, from there it will move simply towards the low concentration area. In that case, it can occur directly, as in that way, as we have discussed earlier, or it may take place through by using certain supporting molecules present in the membrane. Or else it can also occur in another way, that is by using the energy rich molecules. So now let us understand the transport which is taking place across the membrane. It can be of two types, that is, it can be passive transport or it can be active transport. So during passive transport, it can occur either by simple diffusion process, or it can take place by facilitated diffusion. While in the another process of transport. We are not saying diffusion, we are saying active transport. So transport, it can also occur against the concentration gradient by using ATP molecules. So in this, energy rich molecules are utilized. This provides energy. They break down, they provide energy for the movement of molecules from a region of its even lower concentration. It moves irrespective of the concentration towards the either side. Whenever it is required, it takes place accordingly over there. So in this case, passive transport is the one in which energy rich molecule is not utilized. Simple diffusion, what we have studied till now. Facilitated diffusion. Now this is something very important. Facilitated, as the name is suggesting, diffusion is taking place and it is provided certain facilities so that it can take place quite easily. What type of facility is provided? In the plasma membrane, we said certain proteins are also present. Membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. So those proteins, they will either serve as a channel or it will serve as a carrier molecule. So these molecules will pick up the molecule even if it is of larger size. Suppose a pore size is small, so the large size molecule cannot diffuse over there. So to support the movement of such large molecules, these supporting molecules are helping out. They will pick up the large size molecule. For example, as we have studied about glucose. Glucose is a large size molecule. It cannot diffuse easily directly through the pores of these semi-permeable membrane. They need certain carrier proteins or certain channels through which the diffusion can take place. So such carrier proteins are present inside the membrane and they provide a path for the movement of even large size molecules according to its concentration gradient. Whereas in the active transport system, they need ATP molecules. Here, they don't bother about the concentration on either side. They can even go against the concentration hill. They can go in an uphill manner also. That means towards the high concentration also. So these ATP molecules provides energy for such molecules to move across the membrane. We can clearly understand it with the help of this diagram. In the first diagram, it is showing the passive transport. First is the simple diffusion method. Here we can compare these small molecules with that of we can say gaseous molecules, oxygen or carbon dioxide. So in this case, the pores which are present between these lipid molecules is sufficient to support such type of diffusion across the membrane. Else, these membranes, they also contain certain protein molecules. So these proteins which are shown here, they are showing the examples of channel protein and the carrier protein. So in the channel proteins, they form a tubular structure in between these lipid molecules. And thus, these large size molecules, they can move across through these channels rather than moving directly through the spaces present in between this plasma membrane. Further, another example, another protein is shown which is an example of a carrier protein. The example of carrier protein is actually permease. Although you are going to study all these in the higher standard class. For now, you just understand these carrier protein will pick up the molecule. Initially, it will open on the other side so as to release it towards another side. And of course, it is according to the concentration only. It always takes place in a downhill manner. That means from a region of its high concentration to a region of its low concentration area. Active transport, as it is shown here, in this case, it can take place accordingly. It does not bother that which molecule is present in high concentration or in low concentration. It depends on the movement of the molecule as per requirement. And definitely for such process, when it is going uphill, then definitely some energy is required, and that energy is provided by the ATP molecules.